Okay, so Titans season 4 episode 2. Okay, so it starts off with this other cultist demon figure or whatever coming to the fore. We see a family, a parents and a kid. The kid's just playing a video game or watching a video game or something on her phone, and the parents are discussing something like a birthday. So I don't know if it was her birthday. I didn't catch who they were talking about. And as they're talking, blood is dripping down the windows. First noticed by Arya, and because other things happen, like the lights go out, weird things. So she's just watching the blood drip down, which I have to admit is quite impressive for a little girl. I mean, if it were me, I would be running down to my parents to tell them, look what I see, what the hell is going on? But she's just watching. And her parents are doing the same thing, and the blood is dripping even more on the first level. And again, everybody's just watching it like, what's happening? As opposed to, oh, I don't know, freaking out, screaming, and running out of the house or something. I mean, if every window's dripping blood, maybe you shouldn't be there. So, then, as I said, that demon, cultist, whatever, we find out who he is later, but he shows up, kills the wife, he freezes the husband, kills the wife, and the little girl, Arya, comes down to find out what's going on, sees the guy, runs upstairs and locks her door, which under normal circumstances would be the right thing to do, but this is a weird circumstance, so that doesn't work. And I thought at first he killed her too, but because all we heard was her scream and then nothing. So it's implied he killed her too, but we find out he didn't. Now, what is him with taking the men and killing the women? So then we see Connor being read his Miranda rights, and then him being forcefully pushed down on the ground and handcuffed. And I'm just like, and they're taking really good precautions, being really rough with him. And I'm thinking, if he wasn't giving himself up, which he obviously was, you guys would be literal toast. So I don't see how your tough guy act is actually benefiting anybody. So they take him into detention, and there's a news report about said detention, and Tim is watching the morning news and sees this, and he immediately calls for Dick. So they go back to Metropolis to find out, to hear the news from from Connor, what's going on. And Dick and Corey are having none of this. Connor's pretty much resigned to the fact that people think he's a monster and that Lex was right, and oh God, Connor bothers me so much. So so Corey and Dick decide that they're going to do something about it. Dick shows Corey that on Lex Luthor's computer were pictures of her, that he was spying on her. And neither of them have the foggiest idea why he was following her. But that would explain why he knows her sister's name. That might explain it, but still, we don't know why he was tracking Corey. So, Corey goes to one of his offices, I guess, warehouse/office, whatever, because it looked pretty run down. And she finds a man who is trying to get into a computer. And it looks like it has her face on the surveillance. So I guess security cam? But anyway, so Corey asks him, what the hell's going on. He starts by introducing himself. He's very scared, which, considering who he's talking to, is understandable. And she's not in the mood for games. She's like, I didn't ask you your name. And so he finally explains what he knows, which is that everyone in Lex's inner circle died that night. It wasn't just Lex. And he is the only one who survived, which is bizarre. Why would they let anyone live? But so he tells her, he gets that much out, and then he starts coughing up blood, including a serpent, which of course kills him, and Corey makes short work of the serpent because, Starfire. So she leaves, and I honestly thought that just hearing what Blake said would be enough to have Connor released. Just hearing him saying everybody of his inner circle died that night. Well, Connor was only with Lex. So, definitely not Connor. But no, they didn't want to just go there. They wanted to find out who killed Lex. Which is understandable. I mean, yes, it turned out to be a really, really weird explanation. But it would be even weirder if they just brought on Don Blake and said, this is what he told me. So Dick and Rachel go to Lex's penthouse, and Rachel is looking around trying to figure out what magic was used and what it can tell them. And she ends up in front of the house of Arya. So Dick, being completely clueless, I don't know if Rachel was doing something that scared him or what, but he snapped her out of it. And so he and her went to the house. And along the way, Dick calls on Gar and Tim, who were out in the woods training. And I put that in quotes because the training didn't go so well for Tim. Oh, I felt so bad for him. And then Gar ends up hearing voices. So Gar goes to follow the voices, starts transforming, and then passes out. Similar to what Dick and them claimed happened in Bernard's lab. So, okay, something's obviously going wrong with Gar. And So they get the call, so they go to help Rachel and Dick. They go to the house. Tim sees the dead mother, and oh boy, was she murdered. You know, throat slit, huge gash, blood coming out. And Tim looked like he was both fascinated in the sense that you would be watching a car crash, but at the same time, he also probably wanted to throw up. And so Dick tells them to watch the door, and Rachel and him would explore the house. So they find Aria in the bedroom, and she's experiencing a nightmare. So Rachel helps her, and she's in this warehouse with the creature that with the guy that attacked her parents. So, and she's just sitting there scared out of her mind. And Rachel tries to help her and said, we're going to get out of this. Don't worry. You're safe. I'm going to get you out of here. And the guy notices them as they're running away. And so he attacks Rachel. And I swear at first she did not tell Aria her name was Rachel, but Raven. I swear I heard Raven. But she knows later on that her name's Rachel, so maybe I misheard. But, so he attacks her, and, at first she isn't putting up much of a fight until she's finally like, okay, fine. And really lets him have it. So she gets Aria back, and, so we don't know where they dropped off Aria because the dad's missing, the mom's dead. But they go to the warehouse where she was being held. And while everyone else goes to find something, find clues, find something, maybe look for the missing dad, I don't know. And Rachel is calling out to the guy, creature, whatever, that attacked Aria. And attacked her earlier. And so he obliges her. And she ends up unmasking him. And she swears he set himself on fire. Which I actually believe because she's got so much more control than she did even last season. So, because last season, I think it was last season that, oh no, it's season before that she almost killed Jason a couple times. But, unintentionally. But, so while that's happening, they find 4 guys. The rest of the group find 4 guys. And he's draining their blood. Okay. What the hell is with this cult and blood? Now, it's interesting. He killed the women, but is draining the men's blood. So, okay. I'm not familiar enough with the comics to say either way what the hell's going on. I mean, I know what, about Mother Mayhem and Brother Blood and all that, but not enough specifics to make sense of what's going on here. So, so they set at least 2 of them down. One being Aria's father, and the other being the guy from the first episode where they killed his friend. And who I initially thought was the same guy who was at Lex Luthor's warehouse, cat, where he was keeping all the boxes of Lex Luthor's belongings to his mementos and commemorating Lex Luthor's life. So that answers that question. Different guy. And so he ends up in the hospital. We never know what happens to that other guy. But the father is in the hospital. Dick says he's going to make a full recovery, just going to take time. And he tries to reassure Arya that everything's going to be all right. She said, "What about my mom?" And I was heartbroken because I expected Dick to tell her, "Okay, your mom's dead," and not go through the gruesome details. But she's like, "I know what happened. They're not telling me, but I know what happened." Okay, you just made it sound like you didn't, but all right. And so then, with all of that taken care of, Connor is out, and there's a newscast about him being released, that it was discovered he was not the killer. And it turns out that it was his doctor. And Connor gets upset, and he never wants to come back to Metropolis, which is, I think, their way of getting around him ever meeting Superman, so they don't ever have to cast that role. Or, well, I guess technically Superman could meet him anywhere, but... So, he walks out, and before I get to the ending, Sebastian, he meets with his mother, his elderly mother, who's very sick. And actually, when she started coughing when they were watching TV, I half expected it to be blood. I really did. But no. But she was coughing. She's obviously very sick. Sebastian is taking care of her. It looks like she's in a nursing home, based on what happened later. So he tells her about his opportunity to pitch his idea to a company, and she's pushing a girl on him. He's asking her. Keeps asking about some girl. Like, okay, whatever. So he pitches his idea, and none of them are interested. They're just basically humoring him with, "Oh, you did a nice presentation. It's just not the right fit for us, but we have no doubt that you're going to do what you say," and blah, blah, blah. And then he sees them all covered with blood. Well, the first woman, the one who said, "You're not a good fit," it looked like she was eating something similar to what happened in the first episode before that doctor killed her. So, similar scenario, and so I'm like, yeah, those guys are not long for this world. Now, who's gonna end up killing them is a different story, but they're not long for this world. So, he gets spooked and runs out, and so they're mocking him, which can't say I completely blame them. I mean, they just see a very nervous guy, and suddenly he acts like he's seen a ghost and runs out, so can't blame them. And then he goes back to visit his mother, and her room is cleaned out. The TV is still on for some reason, but the room is cleaned out. And a woman comes in, which looked a hell of a lot like Dr. Bennett. And she says, "I'm sorry, but your mother passed. I wouldn't be surprised if she killed her. Would not surprise me one bit." So then we get to the ending where the four, Rachel, Gar, Tim, and Connor, are playing Uno. And Corey and Dick are up front driving away, and I had forgotten to mention that Corey talked with Connor while he was still in custody, trying to find out what the hell is Lex Luthor wanting with her. And he suggested that maybe he thought that she could help him somehow, just like Blake thought so. And then he realized that maybe he's trying to discover her secret, whatever secret that might be. And so Corey is thinking about, what's going on with Lex, and Rachel sees that something is happening. So, and of course they're like, oh, really? We just want to leave Metropolis. What's going on? And they catch a bad woman who I think she was starting to transform as she was leaving Sebastian's mother's. And so, and based on title of the episode, she's Mother Mayhem. So the first thing, now I just love this. They attacked her one by one. And the most annoying part of it is that Connor was the first to attack her. And she just threw him like a rag doll. And it looked like that there was something inside him. And so then Rachel tried. And she got knocked down. I'm sorry, at this point, maybe work together? I mean, first off, maybe work together when you see that Connor got thrown like a rag doll. But both him and Rachel? And you guys are attacking her still one by one? What? I mean, there's no guarantee it would do anything, but it would still make more sense. So, so Dick tries to attack her. She almost kills him until Corey gets involved, and she's able to save Dick. And they fight, and suddenly there's this big explosion. Corey falls back, and she's nowhere to be found. Gar almost got into the fight, but she got to him before with her lightning magic or whatever. And so then Dick goes to get Corey and commends her for saving them. And then they go to Rachel. And Rachel ends up with white hair, and the jewel on her forehead is gone. Now, I'm pretty sure that the explanation for the gem was the same in the show as is in the comics. That's Trigon's prison. So, does that mean Trigon is free? We haven't seen him yet, but does that mean he's free? And that Rachel has white hair, does that mean she sucked the life force out of her? But anyway, you would hope that would be the end of Mother Mayhem. But of course not. So then we see her in that same chamber that Lex was in and chanting. She puts her staff on some pedestal. I assume they're going to summon Trigon. But Sebastian, hears this chanting. So, and he's just looking around like, okay, what? And his coffee cup is overflowing with blood. Because everything has to be blood on this show. At least this season. So, that's how it ended. The next episode is called Jinx. So I have no idea what that refers to, but it can't be anything good because jinxes are not good. So I will see you guys for the next episode.